And welcome everybody to today's post-daily news update. My name is Wai Ting. I'll be leading things off. We are giving John the afternoon off to work on postwrestling.com, updating news all day long. He will be joining me tonight on Rewind to Dynamite back here on YouTube as well as on your podcast feeds later this evening. But I'm very excited because joining me in his place is the recently reunited BDE, Braden Herrington and Davie Portman. Both of you guys joining me on today's Post Daily News. How are you guys doing?
Hello.
Hello.
We're doing great. We're doing absolutely wonderful because we get to talk to you, Wai. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen the two of you in the very same room. At least what looks to be the same room. I mean, I guess on the internet it doesn't make that big of a difference, but the energy is certainly different, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, we are sitting across from each
Yeah,
other.
I'm going to put there we go.
There we
go.
We're back together.
Has it been a week since you've been back, Davey?
A week today. I got back. Pretty much an hour from now it will be a week.
Okay.
So yeah, right back into the swing of things. Back to doing podcasts at normal times, which is nice. Not watching NXT and AEW until 3 a.m, which makes a nice change. Back at work. Already got a second job for the summer. So yeah, things are good.
Keeping good and busy, and looks like you're all more than caught up. I mean, you never really took a break from the wrestling coverage, have you? All throughout your break.
Yeah, barely. I think we maybe missed one show in the whole.
We still covered
everything in that time.
There was definitely that episode 2 weeks ago that made us go, okay, maybe we could take the week off.
Yeah,
but it wasn't this week's, that's for sure.
Not just NXT, of course, but you guys are keeping up very closely on AEW and Dynamite as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, we have the latest edition of NXT's, I would say, their TV specials that just happened last night. Of course, NXT Spring Breakin took place, and this show we saw Joe Gacy versus Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker avenging his father's kidnapping by defeating Joe Gacy with the spear. What did you guys think about this main event and how these two looked?
Compared to the rest of the show, I thought it was a little flat. It wasn't bad. I think both guys can wrestle. I hated this whole Joe Gacy story. I think they completely jumped the shark with it. What once started as kind of this sort of new gimmick with the whole like woke character, it just became another Bray Wyatt. And they just falling back into the old like cliches, druids and all that. The match I thought was a little flat, and especially the bizarre kind of post-match that NXT went off air and then it came on .com a bit later with the attack on Braun Breaker with some more druids. It doesn't look like it's ended, but yeah, I thought this was probably Breaker's weakest title match so far.
Yeah, I still think Breaker is a star for WWE. Like going forward, they can definitely turn him into something like a big character, I think, in their programming. But I agree with Davey. I thought the match fell flat. But more importantly, like this whole angle is ridiculous, but so funny. I think it'll be in your botchamanias and your memes for time to come. It's definitely like the definition of wrestle crap is what this whole angle was. And if you've been watching NXT week to week, you would be like, it's laughable, but like you're shaking your head like when he gets pushed off the thing with the druids and just so ridiculous. It's literally using the most basic, stupid, like they totally went away with something that was unique that got them the mentions on online articles and everything. They just went back to Bray Wyatt stuff, the rambling. And then even in the match, he does the upside down thing. It's like, come on.
It's like they've got a book of like spooky wrestling tropes and they flick through and they're like, all right, let's use Ultimate Warrior in the mirror this week. Let's use druids coming out and eating him this week. Not great.
No.
That one particular spot you mentioned of Gacy like hanging upside down is certainly one that I mean those comparisons were already there to Bray Wyatt, but like him doing specifically something like this, the comments to this GIF that NXT themselves have posted is just basically everybody pointing out dollar store Bray Wyatt comments and well, I guess a whole lot of other things as well. But yeah, it's I'm in total agreement with you. As far as like a title defense goes, it felt about as basic and generic of a wrestling match as I think we've seen in on WWE TV. In the addition of, I think, what feels like such an awfully generic villain role with cheap looking druids. I I thought it was just okay and really not all that memorable. But Braden, you do kind of talk about maybe the wrestle crapness of it all. Is that how somebody has to view NXT through that lens in order to really enjoy some of the stuff?
I mean, if you watched last night, there was more druid stuff, yeah, but there was also, tanning bed attempted murder. There was stealing sandals because there's hot sand, shark onesies.
I think it does vary on the show. I think there's stuff like the
oh wait, we didn't mention a mafia meeting.
Well, yeah, I think there's stuff like the mafia meeting, which I think more of like more Lucha Underground, where it's this is ridiculous what I'm watching, but I am somewhat invested in it. And then there's the like toxic attraction on the beach stuff, which is just laugh out loud how bad it is. Yeah. So I think the wrestle crap does kind of vary in levels. And there are some weeks I'm like, all right, I'm kind of in with this ridiculous character. But you definitely have to, like, I find I enjoy the show more if I approach it that way. Like, what ridiculousness are we getting this week?
And it keeps coming. I mean, they're still promoting new gimmicks that are still very NXT 2.0 gimmicks. They also release people, it seems, every week, and the write-offs for the characters are just bizarre. There is no write-offs for some of these characters. It's Indy looking at her ring like, wonder what happened to my husband.
And that was the other interesting about the show that I was curious to see how they would handle, the continuation of your Diamond Mine storylines and also what's going on with Indy and Duke Hudson. And, essentially they just kind of glossed over the fact that Malcolm Bivens is no longer around. We saw Diamond Mine in the back training, and here comes Roderick Strong basically saying, I'm the leader now, and continuing what appears to be a breakup that's coming up. And as far as Duke Hudson and Indy Hartwell go, I mean, the way they did it, I actually kind of admired because it was all told pretty silently without much. It was just simply Indy looking at what was a missing ring now on her finger. Is that right?
Yeah.
And Duke Hudson comes in. They share a silent, kind of awkward moment, and then Duke goes for a kiss, which is rejected by Indy. And I suppose it's very much the idea that if you know, you know. If you don't, well, too bad, And I suppose, like, do you guys feel like they should have handled it differently?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like, she had a rough couple of weeks, this Indy here. That's basically what like. You're just not. I had to watch over a year of this storyline. I had to watch the wedding. This guy was like shoot kayfabe, whatever. It's definitely not shoot kayfabe wise. His character was a serial killer, and we watched a whole year of this like romance, and then just he's released, and then there's no ring. Move on.
I just find it bizarre. You look at other TV shows. Okay, like I don't watch 2.5 Men, but I think it was quite public, the whole firing of Charlie Sheen.
Right.
You don't start the new season and just Ashton Kutcher is there and nothing's mentioned. He's not employed by the company anymore, but they say like he died, he fell under a train or whatever. Like they kill him off in story. WWE owns all these IPs. They own the name Dexter Lumis. They own the name Malcolm Bivens. These guys are still employed by the company for 30 days. You're telling me you can't even have like a couple of lines explaining?
He ran away with Mei Ying.
Like, I don't know who this show is targeting because so much of it seems to be aimed at like kids. I don't know how much kids are checking up who's being released by WWE. And you've been following this story of your main couple on TV for the last 18 months. And then the husband's just disappeared. This new tag team was formed a week ago and that's no more. I think you've got to do better. This is on TV. This isn't the network anymore where we're watching it solely as like, let's see what the developmental company is. There is a certain aspect where you're putting out a TV show every week, and I expect a little bit of continuity. But I mean, that WWE and continuity, maybe I'm just being stupid.
Wrestling wise, there's actually quite a lot more to talk about because we also had the Viking Raiders taking on the Creed brothers, which saw the Creed brothers win after the Roderick Strong got involved, which the Creed brothers were not at all happy about. So, but what did you guys think about the match itself?
Yeah, this was my match of the night actually last night. This was probably the best wrestling that I've seen since this whole 2.0. And I say this like once every few weeks, so it keeps getting back to a level that like I used to love seeing in NXT. I think the thing we noticed is this was supposed to be this Spring Breakin, strange name, Spring Break special. It had 5 matches. We watch NXT every week. There's like 8 matches that last like 3 minutes long. This felt like a properly paced show, and this match felt like it was given time. And the Creed brothers, I think I said last night on upNXT, like you put all of the marbles on them, put all the money on them, because I see so much in them. Without Bivens, sure, I think they realize, okay, well, they're good at wrestling. They kind of can talk now. Maybe they don't need that whole. Maybe Diamond Mine doesn't even need to be an actual unit anymore. But I liked the also kind of the WWE storytelling with Roddy interfering. Oh, we didn't know he did. Are they going to turn? I almost were thinking they were going to turn heel afterwards, but that was one of the best NXT matches. I think one of the best just plain out TV matches for this year for sure. I really love this match, and it was cool to see the Viking Raiders again. I used to be a big fan of War Machine.
Yeah, that's certainly something I am enjoying with 2.0 is now you can have it as that place where kind of misused talent on main roster can come down and just sort of flex their wrestling chops a bit. And I think this is more than I've seen from Viking Raiders for a long time. And Creed brothers, who are normally playing the bigger like brutes in the match, having people bigger and more brutish than them was nice for them, like getting to see a bit more flavors from the Creeds as well. And as far as kind of distractions / hokey finishes go, I actually really liked this one. I thought it was really well shot with Roddy just flying in out of nowhere. Adds this tension of our Diamond Mine breaking up. I think especially with the real life stuff going on with Roddy requesting his release, you're watching this show and you're seeing tension within this group, and it adds another layer of the story to it to me as well. But I thought this was all very well done.
2 more in-ring bright spots I wanted to mention, and that comes in the form of what I thought was a tremendous opener on the show for the North American Championship between Solo Sikoa, Cameron Grimes, and Carmelo Hayes. I thought, Carmelo Hayes has always looked fantastic, but to me, like the standout was Solo Sikoa, in my opinion. I thought he looked tremendous, and this was a crowd that has already really gravitated towards him, chanting "Uso, Uso," and with how prominent the roles that his family has on TV, I could certainly see a call up happening sooner than later. Also, we saw the in-ring debut of Nathan Frazier, who came out and defeated Grayson Waller. And I thought he looked great. One with the Phoenix Splash here after some Chase U distraction helping him. But I thought a really nice, strong presentation. They were really, constantly mentioning the Seth Rollins endorsement with him being a former trainee at the Black and Brave Academy. What do you guys think of both of those matches?
I loved the opener. I thought the triple threat was great. And for me, it was a real toss-up for match of the night between that and the tag. I think that's where, you do have to give 2.0 some credit, is you look at a Solo Sikoa and you go, yeah, I can see you on the main roster. I can see a Carmelo Hayes on the main roster. And I think for the last few years we've been doing this show, we've been going, oh man, Johnny Gargano's so good, but I worry about him on the main roster. And I will say a lot of the 2.0 talent, I don't say that. I can see a Bron up there. I can see a Solo Sikoa up there. And I think Sikoa definitely stepped up. He's improving every single week. I thought some of the actual triple person spots were really creative and different. And just the pace was relentless. It just didn't let up the whole match. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, the crowd at this CWC has been kind of weird. They've been booing Grimes when he finally gets to the mountaintop. So, I mean, once you get to the mountain, there's only one way to go down, is down, I guess. But it would have been cool to see Solo actually win, because you could have tied it into the whole bloodline, winning all the gold, all the power storyline. Easily could have been the call-up. You get called up to the main roster and you say, look, I brought this from this other thing, and like that could be a way he wrestles for it on SmackDown or something for that North American title, which I think you still could go to. Carmelo Hayes is improved not only in the ring, but like he's created the character that he feels so confident. He's stepped up as well that you could see going really far. That triple threat was awesome as well. Nathan Frazier looks really good. I'm not a fan of Waller. The match was cool. He did a Phoenix splash and it looked really nice, but it didn't necessarily stand out to me as anything. I've enjoyed some of the other stuff I've seen from him though, but it didn't like move the needle for me.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat. I've seen Nathan Fraser be really good, and I didn't think he looked bad here at all. But I don't think I think back to that, was it on AEW Dark? He had a match and just really stood out. And I can't say watching this, I was like drawn to him as much as I would be some of the other characters with his style. And I didn't like his promo beforehand. I think they made him come across quite geeky. Just being like fanboying about being in NXT.
But this week's episode was like, it was a special. They promoted it with 5 matches, kind of like how takeovers used to do. Yeah, for me, 2 of the matches on the card that I looked forward to watching delivered for me. So the wrestling was actually there on this episode. I think this was easily the best episode that they've put on again since this changeover. But then they go to these segments and the silly storylines that brings it back down for me, just being like, oh man, like I like wrestling because I like wrestling. If I wanted to watch Degrassi, I'd go watch that show. But they seem to keep doing it where it's like they treat it like this is the high school version of WWE, which in a way, yeah, it's developmental. It's probably is a good idea. But to like do humor that is for like 6-year-olds and then have like Toxic Attraction doing a bikini thing, it's just a little. I feel like they're still throwing stuff at the wall on TV and maybe more so focus on the wrestling because that's what seems to actually be working. The crowd here are getting so into the wrestling. And for me, NXT, yeah, it's still on this like, hey, nobody really watches it anymore. But if you were to cherry pick some of the wrestling from the show, you'd be impressed.
Next week is the start of the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament, and the all 8 participants have been announced thus far. They are Nikita Lyons, recently announced today, Lash legend Roxanne Perez, Fallon Henley, Tatum Paxley, Kiana James, Sloane Jacobs, and Ariana Grace, who recently debuted, of course, on NXT Level Up, the daughter of Santino Marella. Do you guys have an early pick thus far?
I'd go with Roxanne Perez. I feel she's getting a lot of focus the last couple of weeks. She's already got kind of a bit of a name outside of WWE already. So I'd go for her. But I actually think looking at the field, quite a few of these have stood out for me in their sort of little matches they have had on NXT. I've been quite impressed with what I've seen from Fallon Henley. I've enjoyed Tatum Paxley so far. Nikita Lyons keeps on improving. So I'm quite actually intrigued by this tournament. But I'd go for, Roxanne.
Yeah, Nikita or Roxanne, I could see winning it. I think Santino's daughter should join the Italian family with Tony D. That would be all right. But yeah, I think something that NXT still kind of puts focus on is the women's wrestling, and they want to develop some new stars. So I think this tournament will show some talent.
Okay, we go up next to WWE Raw ratings taking on the NBA playoffs, and the trend seems to continue of WWE Raw falling, and wrestling in general, falling to sports competition here, as the May 2nd edition of the show from Greensboro, North Carolina averaged 1,582,000 viewers and approximately 491,000 or a 0.38 in the demo per Showbuzz Daily and Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics. This is, of all the data apparently that we have available, the 0.38 marks the second lowest Prime demo rating on record, and the lowest Prime demo rating was, of course, back in December of 6th with a 0.35. This show also marked the lowest total viewership of the program since December. But despite all of this, Raw still ranked number 4 in cable originals behind the NBA playoffs, which took all 3 top spots. So, if you're Raw, I mean, again, we kind of talked about this yesterday, and we've been talking about it all week with these NBA playoffs. Maybe you just simply look at the competition and not so much the ratings themselves. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at NBA playoffs, a lot of people watch that. The bars are crazy packed. People are getting super into it. Any playoffs people get into. So that seems pretty normal.
I will say for me though, like I think WrestleMania, it seems kind of universally praised, and I was ready to kind of hop back into my WWE fandom after WrestleMania, and very quickly I've lost interest again. So I can't say I'm too surprised by the decline. I think they had a real opportunity to capitalize off of a lot of buzz after this year's WrestleMania, and I don't think they have. They've just fallen back into the same kind of pattern, and I really think they need to break it if they're going to start improving again.
But they have Cody.
Yeah, and like, which was great for a couple of weeks, and now it's like, have you watched Raw this week?
No.
Have you watched it last week? No. And like, WrestleMania wasn't long ago.
Yeah, true.
Over on the New Japan Pro Wrestling front, they have announced another match for their Capital Collision show that is happening May 14th in Washington, D.C., which you can watch on Fight TV. Hiroshi Tanahashi is set to defend his newly won IWGP US title against Juice Robinson, Will Ospreay, and Jon Moxley in a fatal four-way match. Tanahashi, of course, won the belt this past weekend by defeating Tomohiro Ishii, who replaced Will Ospreay due to a COVID-positive test. Tanahashi was, at the end of the match, attacked by a returning Juice Robinson, who also joined the Bullet Club and turned heel. And, of course, Jon Moxley challenged Tanahashi after beating Ospreay at Windy City Riot. So putting all of those storylines together into one single match, what do you guys think about the match itself?
Yeah, I'm really interested in this. I think the main thing for me is New Japan don't really do triple threats or four ways or stuff. So to have Tanahashi in this match, I think is really interesting to see how he's going to work this kind of style. And just the feel like Juice Robinson feels a bit reinvigorated with this new character. And just Moxley and Ospreay just keep killing it in everything they do. So I think this intrigues me a lot, and I definitely want to check out this match.
I actually really loved that Tanahashi Ishii match. I happened to check that out, and I thought it was pretty sweet. And then the main event also was. I don't know if I ever need to watch Naito versus Okada, but Naito versus Okada would be sweet too. Naito versus Okada. I still checked it out, and you know what? I still kind of got into it, so I thought that was a pretty good show. But that sounds crazy. Like Davey said, they don't do multi matches very often, so it's interesting. But it also, like, it looks like it could set up some possible things for the Forbidden Door. If all these guys are here, like, you would imagine you see Rock Hard Juice Robinson show up at the Forbidden Door pay-per-view.
Wasn't that Hager's nickname as well?
Rock Hard?
Isn't he Rock Hard?
I don't know.
Many people could be Rock Hard.
Yeah, you could be Rock Hard.
They could fight for it. Yeah. This, of course, also adds to the rest of the show matches that have been announced so far, including Tomohiro Ishii taking on Eddie Kingston and Brody King versus Minoru Suzuki. So this show is looking pretty hot, I have to say, this Capital Collision show. And I mean, as it really does feel like a precursor to, Forbidden Door in and of itself, with a lot of AEW/New Japan talent being in the mix. So I'm pretty excited for this show.
Yeah. What matches do you think are, I think this kind of sets up, and I would assume that Forbidden Door main event is CM Punk versus Kazuchika Okada. I think that's the way it's looking.
Maybe we don't know. You're assuming a lot of things, that both men somehow keep their championships or wins the championship.
Exactly.
Ahead of that time. or does he? Like, would you make that champion versus champion, or does Punk have to have the title for it?
Punk will job to Big Kaz in Chicago. Book it. Put money on it right now.
Wow. Okay. You heard it here first. Let's get on to AEW for a second, because some of the news coming off of last night was what was recently seemed to be announced. I mean, not so much an announcement, but what did happen was, and this comes to us from SE Scoops, where a number of people who are part of this Ringleaders website were emailed a survey informing fans of a new AEW show coming to TBS. And Ringleaders, it's important to note, is a Warner Media-owned platform. And the description in this email says as follows: AEW's top performers are ushering in a new behind-the-scenes wrestling series like no other. Every episode will track our core cast on the road at AEW events as they try to hold onto the titles they have or win back the ones they've lost, with everything culminating at the biggest pay-per-view event of the year. They all hope to walk away champions, but there aren't enough belts for everybody. Heroes will rise, villains will fall, champions will be crowned, and with more access, more star talent, and more drama than ever before, we'll see it all through the eyes of the biggest names in the company. So they also followed up with a number of names suggestions that they wanted feedback to from the audience, and their names such as AEW Friends and Enemies, AEW Fight to the Finish, AEW to the Mat. What is also notable is one of the options is AEW to the Top, which is interesting because it is the name of another reality show that aired starring an AEW talent, of course. And I think reading this description, perhaps we can presume that this might be a project that might be taking the place of Roads to the Top, perhaps.
AEW Sammy and Tainara to the top.
So, I mean, I've never seen much of Roads to the Top beyond the first episode, but from the reaction that I was able to see, I mean, it seemed like a lot of the people liked the behind-the-scenes wrestling aspects of it, did not like the Cody and Brandy aspects of it. So if they were to continue the project, to me, it would make a lot more sense to just focus on the wrestling and, storylines and not so much the home life coupling stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking at the description, it sounds kind of like half kayfabe, half like you're going to see them almost BTE style, like on the road and traveling. But the way it's talking about everyone's like fight to become a champion and stuff, it almost feels like you're going to have some kayfabe elements in there as well.
Yeah, I like the name, by the way. You didn't read AEW on the ropes. That would probably be my pick from the list that they gave out. It just like, really? Yeah, name it after something wrestling. Those Road to specials that they do are amazing. If you were to blend a little bit of real life and kayfabe into a reality show that focuses on like a bunch of wrestlers, what was that WWE one where they focus on NXT? Like they focus on like Baron Corbin, Tyler Breeze. Remember that show?
Yeah.
Do it like that. Like focus on Jungle Boy. Focus on, your up and coming stars. MJF even. Yeah, Sammy Guevara. The Pillars even. You know what I mean? Like there's so much talent there. And just kind of create the stories that already are stories.
Breaking ground was what you're looking for.
Breaking ground.
Yeah.
For me, I think something like this, what it should aim to achieve is to get new people interested. And that's where Total Divas was such a success, because it was a kind of more like female led show, which got a lot of women involved. And then they were like, oh, actually, I might want to check out this wrestling thing. Whereas I think as a wrestling fan already, we're already watching a lot. So I'll check it out. But I think it should aim to be something a little different that could maybe catch a bit of a different audience who then might want to start watching Dynamite from it. And I think that's what its goal should be.
So, I mean, I don't know if you guys are on this train at all, but I mean, people who listen to this show will know that John and I are huge into F1 now. And looking at the ratings, a lot of people are, and I think you can look at the results directly coming off of the Netflix special Drive to Survive, or a reality show, I should say. And absolutely, when you're talking about a sporting product, I don't know if there's a better, no pun intended, vehicle to attract audiences that are different from the ones that are already watching your show than something like a behind the scenes documentary. But so, I mean, I'm sure AEW realizes this. I'm sure Warner realizes this, and there's a lot of potential here. The big question is, how much kayfabe is there going to be attached to it? And I'm not even.
Yes. Sorry. I just going back. I think you could do sort of like a Total Divas. I think I would check out some behind the scenes stuff if Jade was a focused character on a show like that, because think of all, she's got like a family. She has now what seems like this lavish lifestyle, the whole baddie section. That could be a whole section of this show. But yeah, that Total Divas brought in a lot of women audience to wrestling. I still talk to people who said they used to love watching that show, and Total Bellas and stuff. So I think it would work. And
I'm not even against like a kayfabe, show, because God knows like reality TV is already pretty much a kayfabe show. I'm just interested in like interesting character pieces and interesting storyline. and just something that tells me a bit more about some of the people involved. Fightful did previously report that there were cameras following Darby Allin around backstage, which could be for a project like this or could be for something else. But for instance, he'd be a guy that I think I'd be really interested to see a half-hour show focused on. So we'll get more updates on this as the days progress. But sticking with AEW, we had a lot more updates on the AEW video game. AEW Fight Forever was the name that was confirmed through a stream on AEW's Twitch channel, and we got to see a bit more footage coming off of today's gameplay reveal featuring Chris Statlander and Nyla Rose. And you two are certainly more of the video game players than I am, and I wanted to get some of your thoughts on maybe how some of these graphics looked and what you think of the name and the title and so on.
The name is, I don't know, it's a little cheesy for me, but at the end of the day, it's going to be what the game is. So they revealed kind of Chris Statlander and Nyla Rose, and I think the graphics are way better than those first images we saw. Seems like 18 months, 2 years ago, maybe even now. Like, it seemed a while. I think it looks good. What I want to know is how it's going to be different from 2K. Because I think the new 2K has been received really well. We haven't quite got it yet, but this sort of creator wrestler thing, like we've already had the whole AEW roster on our video games, just from downloading great creator wrestlers, great arenas, and things like that. So I want to know what's going to make it different, and I kind of hope a completely different style of controls to the 2K games, different kind of story mode than we've seen. I don't want it to just be another video game and cool, I can play as Chris Statlander now.
Yeah.
It needs something different to bring to it.
It can't be the TNA game. It can't just be that, okay, well, here you get to play as all these people. It's like, well, no, you need to actually make like a good game. I love playing these wrestling games. I mean, during the pandemic, 2K19 was our savior, and we would stream and play and, like you said, have all the different downloads and stuff. But sometimes the gameplay in some of these recent games over the years of 2K and stuff, like they make them less fun. Obviously 2K20 was so bad that there was no fun whatsoever. But I do believe some people that worked on previous games a long time ago are working on this new AEW game. I know a lot of wrestling fans say No Mercy is the #1 wrestling game. It's awesome. But for me, I love Here Comes the Pain. And I do think that some of the people that worked on that are working on this game. So that does kind of give me a bit of a high hopes there. Someone in the chat says, yeah, but it looks like a PS2 game. That's maybe it does to me. The graphics didn't really look that great. Even in the new video, you're showing me Chris Statlander, who just went through the gimmick change. So this is already dated content. That's just nitpicking, but the graphics look cool, but they don't look like the WWE ones. But I think this game will be fun, and I hope it is.
I still don't think the WWE ones are anything as good compared to other video games we get, like graphics wise. You look at like your FIFAs and your Maddens and like those big sports games. It's still the graphics haven't improved enough for me.
The created are looking better. Some people recreate the characters that are already in the game because they can make them better, which is I don't understand, but it's just awesome.
A bit of additional information courtesy of Fightful Select about the video game itself. Kenny Omega is set to, of course, be heavily involved, as we suspected, with his current injury actually being called a happy accident, which is allowing him time to focus. And one of the things that he did help is to get the former director of WWF No Mercy attached to the project. His name is Guetta. And the current roster is set to be set at around 50 characters, which is less than half of the current active roster in the company. So you can expect some emotions. BodySlam.net was able to confirm that Owen Hart would be a playable character. Other names that Fightful reported to be include CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Sting, Adam Cole, and Ruby Soho. So we know it's at least as updated as of All Out of last year. And
no Cody.
Unless it's a hidden, something.
No, they had to scrap it. He had to make him.
But you probably find the pieces and create a wrestler, and you can probably find his moveset. And like you said, people are gonna just basically pick the engine that they like more, and then create whatever roster and whatever characters that they want to within it, right? But it also depends on how robust this creator wrestler is going to be on this AEW game. But there's a lot of interest. I think a lot of people wanting an alternative to the 2K games, even though 2K seems to be well received this year. But it'll be a first step, in what seems to be a big project for AEW. So there's an update on AEW Fight Forever. Tonight, it is AEW Dynamite, and we have a pretty full card already, I have to say. First of all, the big match that I'm going to wonder if this one main events the show. We know women's matches are typically kind of put in that 9:30 slot, maybe 9:10 like we saw last week. But since this one is a championship match, I'm wondering if we get this in the main event here. It is the ROH Women's Champion Deonna Purrazzo taking on ROH Women's Interim Champion Mercedes Martinez. What have you guys felt about maybe AEW's kind of build to an ROH championship? I mean, we haven't seen Mercedes Martinez even appear on TV until, I believe, Rampage last week, where she cut a bit of a promo talking about this match. But are you excited for this?
I am for the match, but I can't say it's really been on my radar in the last week, which kind of answers your question. I don't think they've done a great job building up this match. Deonna Purrazzo is someone when they were doing the whole Forbidden Door with Impact, was someone I actually wanted to see hop over, and I think she's a pretty good promo as well. And saying that they just acquired ROH, this should feel like a bigger match than it does for me. But I like both wrestlers, so I am looking forward to the match, and I think if you do make it as the main event, you can make it feel like a big deal, and maybe do some little packages throughout the night to hype it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, Deonna definitely, she didn't have much time in NXT. She left and kind of created this whole thing on her own and became almost a belt collector in her own right. But I think it's a big match for both of them. Both of them, if they would go out and kill it tonight, then yeah, this whole ROH thing will continue going on a good foot with the Samoa Joe and the TV title and all that stuff. It's cool to see this kind of Tony's cooking something up with the whole Ring of Honor stuff, whether it be a whole new show, some pay-per-views or whatever. But yeah, it's good to see some other wrestlers.
Yeah, my feeling is that they use this opportunity to consolidate the titles by putting them on Mercedes and maybe having her kind of lead a future ROH women's division if they intend on doing it. Deonna, of course, a part of Impact Wrestling. So we hope the match is good. We also have Owen Hart qualifying matches between Bobby Fish and Jeff Hardy, and also Dante Martin versus Rey Fenix, which might be, my most anticipated match of the entire show between those two.
I mean, that has to open the show, I think. The Rey Fenix Dante Martin match sounds crazy. We love dream matching this Forbidden Door thing, but we were talking how crazy would Ospreay Rey Fenix be at that pay-per-view, just insane. But Dante Rey Fenix sounds crazy. There's going to be some outflying each other in that match, and then I think it's safe to say Jeff Hardy's going into sorry Bobby Fish, but if Jeff Hardy's in the Owen tournament, it means he's the only guy who actually had a match with Owen who's in the tournament. Which would be pretty cool to see. So I think that's a lock in there.
Yes.
And just one of those funny things where these guys were both in the same company for quite a few years, and this is a first-time match.
Dream match. Yeah. Bobby Fish, Jeff Hardy.
We also have Wardlow taking on MJF's mystery 7-foot-tall opponent, which may or may not be W. Morrissey.
W.H. Morrissey.
Could it be a swerve? Could it be just some other 7-foot-tall person? Could it be the Great Khali?
I would lose my mind if the Great Khali comes out. Tony did it. You got us.
It almost does feel, with it being MJF, the one teasing this, and you would feel otherwise you just throw the graphic up, when with Jericho's trials where he'd announce ahead of time it was going to be Juventud or Nick Gage or whoever. I feel like it could be a swerve and just be some sort of joke opponent.
It's Enzo.
Yeah.
It's not the 7-foot-tall one. It's Enzo.
We also have Chris Jericho versus Santana as a continuation of that Inner Circle, Jericho Appreciation Society versus Proud and Powerful feud. And then also announced was the Butcher, the Blade, and Angelico taking on the Blackpool Combat Club in a 6-man tag. And then we also have the Varsity Blondes calling out the House of Black for their influence on young Julia Hart. Okay, is this finally going to come to... Are we going to see Julia Hart defect tonight?
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to happen, it's going to be tonight, surely.
Yeah, it has to happen. It's all been leading to this.
But yes. I got to say, what I'm most excited about is how they're going to We've seen how NXT handled Dexter Lumis and Persia Pirotta going. I want to see how Angelico handles the loss of his partner. He's going to be dancing
by himself.
He's going to look to his side, and there's not going to be a guy dancing with him. I want to see how they're going to approach that.
I feel like Angelico is now the plug for AEW now that Jack Evans is gone. But damn, I pour one out for Jack Evans.
Yeah,
100%. But yeah, it's not going to be the same. The dancing, you need to have both of them doing it at the same time.
Yeah.
It's always like Angelico doing the grooving and Evans doing backflips. Yeah, it's great. Well, maybe that's a Halloween costume idea. Yeah.
So that is Dynamite tonight. As I mentioned, I'll be back with John Pollock to cover it. But if you want another opinion, if you're sick of hearing me and John talk all day long, the two of you guys also do an AEW Dynamite review every single Thursday, don't you?
This is true. Yeah. So we do Up Next, of course, on our Up Next podcast feed and our Twitch and stuff. But yeah, we also talk about Dynamite every week as well on BDE Elite. And we'll be doing that as well, chatting it. We do that every week, chat about Dynamite, just because we watch it anyways. So we might as well give our thoughts. And sometimes people like our thoughts on it.
Yeah, and you can check that out live on our Twitch, twitch.tv/upnextpodcast, or watch like the replays on Twitch and on youtube.com/upnext. So yeah, we've been talking about AEW right from the beginning. And we enjoy talking about it.
I mean, we obviously do the NXT stuff, but I've definitely enjoyed Dynamite, especially the run they have. Everything seems super interesting. I'm super into the pay-per-view coming up, and then I'm also into the Forbidden Door stuff. That's all super cool. They're definitely the show that I love watching week to week, and we love talking all about it every week.
And for more of their detailed thoughts on last night's NXT, you can check out the latest edition of Up Next. Before we get out of here, I wanted to again draw everybody's attention to the latest Rewind Away that John and I dropped yesterday, talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestling World 2003, looking back at a time when I wasn't watching the product, but it's one that I think is very interesting to go back to because it is Josh Barnett versus Yuji Nagata in Josh Barnett's first professional wrestling match. This is a card that pretty much features a lot of MMA influence in the form of what is now dubbed Inokiism, where seems like wrestling has maybe struggled to adopt a lot of MMA into its presentation. Came somewhat at the detriment of New Japan's success. So there's a lot of talk about New Japan history there. And yeah, I want to take this time right now to thank the two of you. Welcome back, Davie Portman. Welcome back, a reunited BDE. And where can people follow you guys if they want more?
Yeah, I mean, on Twitter, at UpNext Podcast, of course, that's where we also have a Facebook page, which leads you to the Facebook group. We have a nice little community there of lots of wrestling talk and memes and stuff. And of course, our Patreon as well, if you like hearing us. We also do retro NXT reviews. Right now, we're in September 2013, which means it's the Sami Zayn-Cesaro feud. We just, a few episodes ago, talked about 2 out of 3 falls. We're seeing the formation of the Boss, Sasha Banks. Charlotte's there, Bailey's there. Yeah, we're gonna NXT in the golden era. So we do retro NXT reviews on the Patreon. We do retro pay-per-view reviews. We're gonna be doing Fully Loaded from WWF this month. But later today, we're actually recording a show, Best Match Ever, in honor of AEW's Owen Hart Foundation Tournament. We're doing a Best Match Ever, Owen Hart. And Wai, what's your favorite Owen Hart matches? Give us a few, because we're talking about a bunch today.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the ones that immediately come to mind, of course, are the Brett matches.
Of course, yeah.
I think most people are going to probably say WrestleMania 10, just given its how popular it is. But I mean, maybe for me, like my favorite Owen Hart performance, I have to go back to Bob Backlund Bret Hart match where Owen Hart had to basically beg his mom to throw the towel in to save Bret the Hitman Hart. That to me is a match that like constantly stays in my mind because I thought Owen did such a great job in that match, along with his mother, of course. So maybe that'll be my choice. I don't know if that's gonna make it, but that's my mention.
Well, I watched Owen Hart versus Liger today, and that was pretty good. So it's up there too. There was no throwing in the towel, no Martha in that one.
Yeah, we're looking at a bit of a broad spectrum. Some New Japan matches, some WWF matches, and even a Stampede wrestling match is thrown in there as well. So, best match ever is probably our favorite show to do because we just get to nerd out over some wrestling, and some of it's kind of been under the radar at times. So
we did
forward to this one.
We did a best match ever, Razor Ramon, and we found some crazy hidden gems from Scott Hall. And then we also did a Steiner Brothers one in honor of them going to the Hall of Fame. And we watched some of their like New Japan stuff, some Tokyo Dome classics from those guys. That's like probably the fun show to do. But we have a bunch out there on our Patreon. It's $5. You get access to everything that comes out this month, but you also get access to everything we've done in the past there. So yeah, go support the BDE and give us a shot and let us know what you think. Yeah,
they're incredibly hardworking. They record as much as John and I do, and just provide incredible value for people who support them. So thank you so much, BDE. I also want to take the time to thank John Sino for a super chat. He says, shout out horses, Joey Bananas, and the BSK. And also Brandon from New Jersey for his super chat. He said, what if it's Kevin Thorne?
In AEW?
For Wardlow's opponent?
Yeah.
Is Ariel going to be there too? Then I'm in.
Is he even 7 feet tall?
No.
Why would he even qualify?
His personality is.
Are vampires 7? No.
All right.
Definitely.
Well, thank you, everybody. We'll be back tonight. See you guys later.